In the scientific community, the phrase publish or perish has become a universally accepted mandate. This Anglo-Saxon dictum emphasizes the importance of accumulating published products in order to objectively measure a scientist, group, or institution's merits. Despite the widespread adoption of this principle, it is worth noting that in the Latin world, publishing more than others can lead to perishing. Quantity is imposed on quality as a biblical curse already anticipated in Ecclesiastes 12. To compose many books is never to end, and to study too much harms health. The academic researcher becomes a kind of modern Sisyphus, condemned to publish one article after another as a stone that never reaches the top. The consequences of this directive are profound and far-reaching. Some authors attempt to control the information explosion with proposals that are ultimately unsuccessful or overly complicated. Even from the realm of qualitative methodology, additional proposals are presented as integrative but prove to be scattered in a verbose discourse. The effects of this policy were analyzed and they found no significant impact on emerging scientific fields but detrimental effects on the quality of mature fields. The current state of scientific information is characterized by colossal chaos, fueled by the internet and its social networks, which have added more wood to an already fiery blaze. For year 2020, the Ulrich's Periodicals Directory, a reliable source of bibliographic and publisher information, indexes more than 300,000 papers including all types of academic and scholarly journals. The recent pandemic has led to a proliferation of publications on the topic, resulting in a paperdemic phenomenon. This bunch of publications not only releases studies with little methodological validity but also has little impact on clinical practice and social transformation. Reducing research impact to simple and primary indicators such as the impact factor or H-index is a mere tautology that can be extended to centers, research groups, departments, and countries. Using Google's data related to production and citation indicators as an example of metrical delirium caused by such citation and production data. Citation analysis is limited as an indicator of research impact. Normal science does not cite its authors in a phenomenon called obliteration by incorporation. In fact, there is a group of academics who have built their careers on mediocre scientific production and who stop publishing and citing once they reach their intended status. These academics are criticized for being integrated into cliques and controlling research systems through favoritism and adverse selection, with the blessing of political and economic interest groups. This parasitic caste breaks any cumulative advantage and invalidates any alleged valid evaluation or assessment of research because it is not verified by the Matthew effect, which is postulated by Merton in 1968. This group is not cursed thanks to their social intelligence. There is no strong evidence that eminent scientists have been great publishers. In fact, humanity's most influential transformers, such as Christ, Buddha, Socrates, and even Lao Tzu, they never wrote anything. Now, we lack a compact study that relates productivity and measured prestige by an accepted dummy variable, winning a Nobel Prize. The available studies are quite limited, almost anecdotal, and with exceptionally low sample size. A study showed that Nobel laureates in science publish more than a matched sample of scientists, but that receipt of the prize is followed by declining productivity. Another study stated that the Nobel Prize is awarded for an outstanding contribution carried out by scientists in a particular field of scientific activity, which will have an everlasting impact and create altogether new fields for research. Obviously, the Nobel Prize is not gained by authors with a high publication productivity. Another study suggests that the Nobel's careers before winning the prize follow relatively similar patterns to those of ordinary scientists, being characterized by hot streaks and increasing reliance on collaborations. Nevertheless, it must be stated that obtaining the Nobel Prize is not the discriminating panacea variable of scientific quality. Eminent scientists did not achieve such a conspicuous prize. Cases of outrageous oblivions are abundant. Scientific publishing has become focused on accumulating scientific documents rather than communicating relevant findings and exposing useful controversy. In the current state of accumulation of scientific documents, one has the sad impression that the aim of the journals, which once was to communicate relevant findings and expose useful controversy, became to publish per se but not to be read. Private corporations have become the main drivers of science with economic impact, and social scientists have generated speculative knowledge with no real impact. The so-called institutionalized science is clearly degenerating into something very different. How about the role of reviewers in science? Well, they have become complex figures and fantastic useful slaves. They may be generous and compassionate, but not joyful authors. The reviewers are advised to accept their frustrating experiences and work hard for no rewards other than a certificate of recognition. The availability and assignment process of reviewers are compared to a skillful fishing exercise rather than fundamental participation in science. Criticism of peer review is also discussed, including the questionable agreement between reviewers and the fact that valid revisions often require replicating the study being reviewed, which is rarely done. What can we expect in a scenario like this? Well, you don't have to be a genius to understand that in the future science will be taken over by private corporations, which will dominate and public institutions will play a minor role. Academia's central research task may be to systematize knowledge generated by others, teach it to students, transfer it to society, or replicate previous studies. Replication is the capital essence of science. Acknowledged replica studies should have a place in scientific journals. However, one has to say there is a crisis of replication in typical disciplines such as social sciences, psychology, and medicine. The effectiveness of scientific journals and their role in achieving social objectives is not questioned here, but there are concerns about rapidly and massified influence of spurious interests, such as publicity and misleading advertising. One should ask whether research is the central objective of universities, which have grown like mushrooms everywhere. Academic institutions should reorient their research role to avoid becoming aberrant and parasitic institutions that are devoid of their main social function: teaching and training qualified professionals. Research and teaching are antagonists in some ways, with a consistent meta-analysis showing no relationship between them. Coffee for all? No. Research for all? Forget it. Public research institutions such as the Russian Academy of Sciences, the French National Center for Scientific Research, and the German Max Planck Society. They all are subject to national interests and political groups. These institutions operate by projects, but are highly bureaucratic and rooted in political social networks. There's lack of consistent research agendas that allows research to be concentrated on relevant topics. The researcher's appetite to publish is intensifying, and the process is becoming more competitive. Scientific publication and its overabundance is not justified or necessary in many contexts. The corrective tool for improving scientific editing is peer review, but biases and perversions are undermining the confidence in the scientific enterprise. Scientific publication is a unique phenomenon that must be placed in service of the search for a compassionate, humanized science, which should emerge at some point, after this age of degradation and egotism comes to an end. The previous video is a summary of the paper, whose reference is provided below. Please click that subscribe button to support the creation of educational content like this.